Welcome to SEGA Saturn Shiro, the only podcast that will leave you with a horrible Halloween.
The only podcast that talks about games so bad they're scary.
Ooh, I like that. That's way better than my thing is garbage compared to whatever you just said. Today's Shiros are Nick, Ben, Peter, Dave, Kay, and myself. As always, let's start off with those personal updates. Nick, did you want to start us off?
Sure thing, yeah. Not a lot in the way of updates, just been generally busy with work and stuff. Still editing the SimCity 2000 review, that's coming along nicely. And been messing around with this PC pad built for me on a good deal. Got 20XX, the Melee mod, up and running, so...
Ooh, somebody's asking to get dunked and smashed.
I sure am. I got to get Slippy installed, and then I'll finally be able to do that. And then, of course, burning some delightful Saturn games for me to edit reviews of with it. And Premiere runs like a dream on it, and pretty much every PC game I've played on it so far, like the new Darius game, which I'm finally able to play at home. It's all running great. So that's pretty much it. November is going to be not a fun time for me, and then after that things will be fine. So
weird. I wonder why November specifically.
Yeah.
strange coincidence. I wonder what's going on in November.
Me too.
Anyways, Ben, did you want to tell us what you've been up to?
So I've just picked up a few games. One of them is the Shmup collection for the Nintendo Switch, and definitely looking forward to playing that because I do like my shoot 'em ups.
Is that Psycho one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the Psycho one. Aside from that, the girlfriend wanted a new method of working out because she didn't like working out in the gym and, with all of us in the COVID situation. Well, the idea we came up with was Just Dance 2020. And so what we're doing is we basically do little dance battles. Each person picks the next song that you have to dance to. So that's basically what's been going on. I've had a lot of work happening on my side of the fence, so I haven't really been able to play any of these games that I've been picking up. But yeah, I got a stack of them ready to go whenever I've got some free time.
All right. Peter, did you want to tell us what you've been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So not too much new on my side of the border, but I have ordered a region-free BIOS chips that I'm going to try to install onto one of my Saturns. And the reason that I bought that, obviously, for the convenience of being able to play any region game on my North American unit, but I also want to see if I can convince or coerce some talented coder out there to see if they can maybe work with me to hack that BIOS even more. I want to see if we can add native support to the parallel port devices. So we'll see how that comes in. And then the other thing I want to mention real quick is I ended up picking up a copy of Sega Rally that is in the very short standard jewel case. And those are not very common at all. In fact, I'm trying to think of how these discs were released in the standard jewel cases, and the only thing I can think of is that they actually were released as part of the Netlink Saturn unit, but I'm not sure. Is it though? Because you would think that would be the Netlink edition of Sega Rally.
Oh, it's just a regular Sega Rally?
It was a pack-in, from my understanding. I own two of those. One sealed and one opened.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it came in, and it looks just like there's no difference as far as I know code-wise, and it even has the same serial code as the regular version, but it just comes in a standard little jewel case with a red spine, and I saw it and I just had to pick it up because it's obviously far less common than the regular standard size long box, the silver long box. So that's really about it for me. So I'm excited to get that BIOS chip in and see if I can swap it out with the one that I've currently got in there, and then also the Sega Rally pickup. And that's about it for me.
Are you going to do that BIOS swap yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. So I've never really done any modifications of that nature, but I'm gonna see if I can give it a shot. What could possibly go wrong?
It's not too bad. I think you'll be all right with it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Just don't solder your hand to the system.
How much did you pay for your version of Rally? I'm curious.
You know what? It was actually pretty cheap. It was like, geez, $20 or $30. Like it was just an auction on eBay, and nobody was really bidding on it. Probably because not too many people are aware of it, I would imagine. But I didn't pay very much at all.
About 4 years ago-ish or so is when I picked up mine, and one guy had like a stack of them. We're talking like 30 of them. And so I picked up my set from him.
The funny thing, Kay, is I'm pretty sure I remember that too. There was because back in the day they were more common than they are now, or at least I would see them pop up from time to time. So now not so much.
Now, there was a version that came with the netlink, and it does say netlink, so there's that one too. So I think if you're online, you would have to make sure, if you're on eBay or something, you'd have to make sure that it didn't have the netlink on the spine there.
Yes, and this one's quite unique because the Saturn's got a very small amount of releases, at least in North America, that came in standard jewel cases. The two Netlink pack-in games, Virtual On and Sega Rally Netlink, both have their own standard jewel cases. There's a copy of Virtua Fighter Remix, I believe, that has a standard case, and the original Virtua Fighter. Anyways, there's a few of them, but this one Sega Rally release has like a blood red spine, so it completely stands out with all the other small jewel cases. Cool. And the Netlink one doesn't. So
right, okay. You're talking about the part where it says Sega Saturn on the front, or just on the
no,
spine?
Just on the actual spine. It is super red. So
okay,
like if you've got it on a shelf, you'll definitely notice it stand out.
Gotcha.
Like the front artwork just looks like a squished up version of the original, like made to sort of fit a standard jewel case.
Gotcha.
And it's just in plain color, like it's not silver or anything, and yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So what about you, Dave? What have you been up to in the world of Saturn and just in the world of Dave in general?
Oh, well, let's see. In the world of Saturn, I think it's going to be mostly just playing a couple games to prepare for this cast.
Anything good?
That's debatable. I mean, it depends on your taste. I was playing Mansion of the Hidden Souls. The Mansion of Hidden Souls. Not to be confused with the Sega CD version. And then Lunacy. I mean, I like them, and I own them, but I know that they're kind of like adventure FMV games, so I'll get into those later.
Fair enough.
But yeah, also teaching my son the ways of karate through good old Parappa the Rapper. Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you want to test me. So I was introducing him to Parappa for the first time, and he just got a kick out of that. So
did you teach him how to drive too?
Taught him how to drive. Yeah, put your foot on the brakes.
Foot on the gas.
What is it? Yeah, foot on the gas.
I love that.
Yeah, I've been working in the flea market so early.
God, that game is so good.
He actually got pretty far at that game, so he's got good rhythm. But yeah, he's getting into like rhythm games. We were playing Rhythm Heaven the other day, and now he's like getting into Parappa and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just introducing him to like new genres.
Are you gonna show him the Parappa ripoff on the Saturn?
I will. Jung Rhythm, yeah, I love
Rhythm.
that game, but it's a little bit more. I figured I'd start him off like with something that's pretty accessible, Then we'll get into like the weird esoteric stuff. But yeah, no, Jammer Lammy, Jung Rhythm is a great game too on the Saturn for anybody who hasn't checked it out. That's worth a burn.
You should get him into the world of Beat Money and make him become a pro Beat Money player. Just like those turntables, slamming all the keys.
Sure. No, but he's really big into like strategy games and stuff. Funny enough. So this is like completely different direction for him. But yeah, he likes it a lot. So that's me in a nutshell.
Gotcha. What about you, Mr. K?
Yeah, so Peter wrote this pretty fantastic article about this disc that I've had in my possession for a couple of years, but was in a stack that I didn't really look at for a very long time. It was a local pickup at a friend's store, Video Game Wizards in Portland, and I was just there after PRGE, I think 2017, and they had a bunch of Japanese disc-only games that showed up, and I went ahead and started grabbing anything that I didn't recognize that I had. Among some of the more interesting ones was like the demo for Layer Section 2 and the demo for Girls in Motion Puzzle 1 and 2, and this really bizarre game that I had not seen before. And they gave them to me for like $1 to $3 a piece, $1 to $5 a piece. And I just took this whole stack home. There's maybe like 30 discs. And then I just left them in a stack. Didn't bother looking at them. And last December, I was going through my Saturn games, trying to catalog everything. I've been trying to do this for a number of years. And I finally got to that stack, and was kind of shocked because Layer Section 2 was actually missing from the redump set for a number of months. And I was actually about to buy a copy of it from someone, I think, in Puerto Rico. So I was shocked that I discovered I had it. And then there was this game that, again, I didn't recognize it at all. And I started looking up its product number, and the product number was not in Satakore. And that shocked the daylights out of me. It's the Atlanta 1996 Olympic Games. And I was super excited because I thought, oh wow, I found, a impossible game. One that shouldn't exist, like the Japanese version of Scorcher or something. Turned out it was just an audio disc with the proper printing, so it was kind of like a test printing of what the disc would have looked like. But the same week that I found the game, or I guess I found this disc in my collection, Fireball from the Redump Project turned me on to a Yahoo Japan auction where they were showing a flyer for the same game. And so I went ahead and I bought that and sent some scans over to Peter last month, and he wrote a nice little article about it.
So what's the audio on the disc? Is it just like random audio, or is it just stuff related to the Olympics?
No, it had nothing to do with the Olympics at all. The Matrix code was just like some Japanese artist. I've not listened to it, and once we discovered that it wasn't an actual like Saturn executable, it just kind of got put aside. The disappointment, washed over me, and then I was like, okay, well, it's still a cool little piece to have, somewhere.
You should rip the music and see where it's from.
Oh, we figured out where it was from originally, and I did a dump and gave it to the Redump Project to have it examined. But yeah, it wasn't anything special audio-wise. The physical disc itself is very unique.
I gotcha, but the audio is just some random Japanese artist or something?
Yeah. Beyond that, the Fire Pro Wrestling translation project is getting closer to completion, and we're in the process now. I'm going through renaming all of the built-in wrestlers with their authentic names as close as I can get. So doing a lot of research on mid-90s Japanese wrestlers.
That sounds like a fun time.
It's been interesting, and it's been a very long time since I picked this game up, and it caused me to go through some old paperwork I had, including like a 18-plus-year-old document of me trying to write out in hiragana and kanji of what the various skill categories were, so that I'd be able to recognize it on screen. And I also found some of the old edits that back before I realized that saving things in HTML would probably be the better idea, I converted a bunch of stuff to Word documents and then printed them out and shoved them into some sort of binder. So I actually had an edit, which is what you call the Creative Wrestler in Fire Pro. I have an edit of Carnage, from Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
There, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, in terms of what I've been up to, I finally got a copy of Magic Knight Ray Earth after lots of trading and shelling out a bit of cash for it. So that was kind of good. It was about an $800 game at the store, so I didn't want to put that on a credit card, so I traded a bunch of stuff in. I think it was a complete in box Final Fantasy 3 for Super Nintendo, Kirby's Dream Land 3 with a box, a Sega CD. What was the other one I got? And there's a couple other ones in there, but there was just sort of the heavy hitters on there. A lot of them are just pretty much SNES games, but I don't really play them anymore physically. I mostly play on Mister, so I kind of figured I'd rather get a game I'm really passionate about instead of a bunch of stuff that's just sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So yeah, that was really, really cool. I got actually a Foo disc too, so I got Best Girl, so yay. So so that was really cool. It's cool to finally own one of those, so I think that's one of the only Saturn games I really want to collect. Yeah, I'm really happy to have that in my collection now, and hopefully it'll forever stay with me. Unless it disappears randomly. But let's hope it doesn't.
I hope it doesn't, yeah.
Besides that, just got back into collecting for GameCube, PS2, and a few other ones. So a lot of yard sailing stuff. Nothing super, fruitful. A lot of my time is spent on looking on OfferUp, Craigslist, and Meraki for any kind of deals. But I mean, in Arizona at least, it's like by the time it's posted, there's about 4 people ahead of me that already posted and offered probably twice the amount of money. So it's kind of hard to find deals nowadays, at least on those apps. So just try and hunt down GameCube stuff mostly, and just working out in general. I've got back into the funk of it, so I'm kind of back working out. So a lot of muscle based stuff, a lot of free weights, a lot of cardio stuff. So I'm kind of trying to get fit for 2020, and kind of tying into my podcast where I have this challenge where it's like. One of the things in the show that in Hunter x Hunter for the podcast I do is like getting your hunter's license, and one of the tasks is running about 50 miles. So, and I want to get into shape to do something like that, maybe do a 50-mile walk for the podcast. But that's probably not going to happen for a while, especially with COVID. But besides that, yeah, just other podcast stuff, this podcast, and trying to live my life by getting GameCube.
So you got Animal Crossing, right?
Yeah, I got Animal Crossing and a couple other ones. So,
you actually got a few games in that Animal Crossing game, correct? Because it's the GameCube version.
Yeah,
so you get all those unlockable games.
Yeah, it's like 10 additional games. So, I guess when that collection picture is like, I got like almost 15 games instead of like 5. So, it worked out well.
That's a good one though.
Yeah, but no, on top of that, I got Super Monkey Ball. I got that. I got Donkey Konga 2.
Saw that, yeah.
I forgot what the other ones were, but there's... Oh, Evolution, and then I think that's it. But
do you have Evolution for the Dreamcast?
Yeah, I have both of them, I believe.
Cool.
But yeah, it's all good. That's about it, though. Why don't we move on to the news? All right, so the Valhollian translation was shadow dropped. So I think it was like last week, one of the teams dropped the translation for Valhollian, and unfortunately, I haven't really had time to dig into it. But I'm super excited about it. Have you guys tried this out or have more info on that?
It's got a really deep learning curve.
Yeah, so I ended up burning myself a disc with the patch applied. I've not played the game before, and I've only just given it a very quick sort of trial just to make sure everything worked. And it does. So first impressions, it's sort of a strategy RPG type of game in the vein of Wackenroder or maybe even Shining Force 3. The sections where you actually fight an enemy when you take a turn and take a strike at an enemy are 3D, but the rest of the game is really, really gorgeous 2D. Like the pixel art is really quite phenomenal. And I don't, that's really all the impression that I've got at this time. I haven't really, played too much into it. I want to take my time with it and really get into it. But so far, it just looks really sensational. And it really just, for me, it goes to show that, especially for RPGs, which is a genre that I really enjoy on the Saturn, there is a ton of stuff in Japan that is hardly ever talked about just because of the language barrier. And so this was one such game, and it's super cool to see it translated and available to us English speakers. It's awesome.
It reminds me when Linkle Liver Story was translated, like no one in the West really knew about it, and now a ton of Saturn fans have played it and love it. And I feel like this is kind of a similar experience. It's like we're getting new games. It's nice. So.
I remember getting that game as one of my first Saturn games, Linkle Liver, and it actually was a lot of fun. I couldn't understand anything that was happening, but it was still super fun. But now I'm happy I can actually play through that. Same
localizer, right? Ice Shasha or Ice?
Yes.
Yeah. They go definitely go for the less talked about stuff for sure. Low profile, and that's cool because then when it comes, everybody's like, "Whoa, what's this?" So that's cool.
Exactly.
Just like you said, it goes to show you how much stuff is trapped in Japan.
Little by little, we're uncovering and chiseling away that language barrier. Soon we'll have almost every hentai game on the system in the U.S. library.
Your life will be complete.
Did I say hentai? I meant dating sims. But no, I'm really, in all seriousness though, I'm really excited. They really need to do that 04 or doozy translation though, because I really want to get my dates back up with Whale Man, but
yeah,
not happening.
Memories.
God. But TerraOnion announced support for the PlayStation 1 for their ODE, their mode. So I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, it requires a modification, unfortunately, and it's not plug and play. But I just like the idea of this product being able to do all three of those and be so versatile. I know it's also been criticized for that versatility, where it's like, oh, why can't it be 3 separate devices? But I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of like the idea of it's expensive, but I mean, it's good for what it does.
Isn't that the whole point of FPGA though? I mean, it's like reprogrammable and what you want it to be.
Yeah, the thing is that I think it's all plug and play though, so it's all ready to go. But it's just kind of annoying that it gets that sort of criticism. At least in my eyes, I like that versatility. At least, I mean, what do you guys think of this?
People need to understand and appreciate one thing: the availability of this device owes itself to the fact that they only have to focus on building one device. They can focus their entire fabricate. At least that production line, they can really just focus on building that device and reworking and troubleshooting that one device and making sure that they're getting enough out to people. If they were having to do multiple different devices, there would be a lot of demand, but there wouldn't be as much supply. And it would probably cost more, to be honest, if they had to, make 3 different devices, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think it would get pretty expensive, especially on their end. So I kind of like the idea of just one product and keeping it stock and being versatile. Yeah, it's a bit expensive compared to...
It'll come down, though, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, it's already cheaper than the satiator. So, I mean, for the cheap... I mean, yeah, it does require an install, but I mean, it's just as good, if not better, than the satiator in some ways.
And heck, with a little bit of effort, you can switch it in between the different consoles, and you're not really spending more money. You're just using the same thing that you already have, which that's kind of neat too.
But yeah, I'm super excited about it. They did announce that it does require modification to the PlayStation itself, but I think it's about the same modification as the X Station, which is another like ODE. They both look pretty good, and I'm excited to see what the modification is. If it's easy enough, I think I might get another one for PlayStation, because it also would be nice to have a versatile PlayStation as well, especially for our jobs comparing the different versions of the game. So that'd be kind of cool. Let's go into our main topic tonight, which is crappy Halloween games for a crappy 2020. You thought your 2020 was bad. Wait until you get into these games. But man, yeah. Basically, I thought it was a fun idea. We've done a lot of good Halloween games. I thought we'd do some rather awful ones. Just terrible. But we got a really good selection here. Why don't we start with you, Peter, on Crypt Killer, which is a pretty horrible... you know what? I don't know. Let's see what you think about Crypt Killer.
Okay, so I had the quote-unquote pleasure of playing Crypt Killer, which is also known as Henry Explorers in Japan. Really strange change of name, but Crypt Killer. So it's a Konami
so
arcade.
Dumb.
Yeah, it's what a weird title change. I agree. So Konami released this in 1995 in the arcades as a light gun game, and it was unique because it featured pump action shotguns, and that was the big draw in the arcades. So, and it was a 3-player game, so up to 3 people could, go raiding some crypts for treasure. So it released on the Saturn in '97 as one of Konami's, big 3 North American Saturn games, alongside with Contra: Legacy of War and the baseball game Bottom of the Ninth. And I'm being sarcastic here because in Japan they released close to 600 games, it seems, of fantastic franchises and quality, and games like Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, and Vandal Hearts, and about a million others, but not in North America, because we got Contra, we got Bottom of the Ninth, and we got Crypt Killer. So on the Saturn, the game is for 1 or 2 players. In the arcades it was 1 to 3, but on the Saturn it's just 1 or 2 players. It is compatible with the Stunner light gun, and I did play the game both with the standard controller and the Stunner light gun. To my delight, it's also compatible with the Saturn mouse, and I did give it a try with the mouse, and I have to admit that out of all 3 control configurations, I actually enjoyed the mouse the most. The sight on the screen moves very quickly when you're using the mouse, and so your accuracy can just really shoot sky high compared to using a light gun. But that could also be because I'm not that good at light gun games. And the just the regular standard controller, because of course your sight moves pretty slowly with a standard controller, and you have to hold down one of the shoulder buttons to increase the speed, and it's just a mess. Anyways, so you're an adventurer and you're in the search of treasure, sort of like an Indiana Jones motif. And during your travels, you're joined by the spirit of Galamon, and he sort of advises you in between sections in the game.
Oh god, that guy is so creepy.
He is. He's like a floating head, bald head that just sort of appears. And I really sort of tried to watch him and understand him, because the voiceover is quite quiet compared to the background music. And so I was trying to treat him like a human being, and I was watching his lips to see if I could, enhance how I could understand him. Of course, it didn't work for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Number one, his eyes were quite bloodshot, this guy. And his eyes were sort of moving around and shifting, and from time to time he would go cross-eyed. And also he was really just sort of twitching quite uncontrollably, especially in his lower face. And so it just was really sort of unnerving. I thought possibly he was smoking some kind of mystic substance or something.
I mean, he could be, yeah. It's kind of funny. I saw the PS1 version. His head's like way bigger.
The PS1 version, and I watched video of it, seems quite a bit smoother than the Saturn version, at least in terms of textures. But it's still not that good, and I'll get to the not good part in just a sec. So your goal in this game is to get treasure, and you do that by going through each level, and at the end of each level you face a boss, and when you defeat the boss you get an eye of guidance, so it's kind of like a jewel. And so the idea is that behind this door, which has a bas-relief head with the eyes missing, if you put in the 2 eyes of guidance that you got from beating 2 levels, the door will open and then you'll get your treasure. So it's essentially, once you complete 2 levels, you get to see an ending. And there's multiple endings available depending on which levels you select to play, and also which kinds of eyes you get, because there's red eyes and there's blue eyes. And what determines whether you get a red eye of guidance or a blue one is which path you take, because the game does have, within each level you have 2 points in each level where you get to select a path, and it always comes down to just 2 side-by-side doors, and you have to shoot at the one that you want to go through, and then you proceed. And so I said that essentially you have to finish 2 levels to get to the ending, and that's true, but the game actually has 6 levels in total, and you can select any combination of 2 levels that you want. So really, if you think about that, you've got 6 levels to choose from, and you only need 2 to complete the game, and then within each level itself, you get 2 points where you have to select your path. It actually, ends up being quite a good amount of replay value. So each playthrough is going to be slightly different. There's so many combinations and whatever. And just the fact that even defeating each boss, you get either a blue or a red eye of guidance that, tells you that you're going to have different endings. And so there's just a lot of combinations. But the endings themselves are kind of weird. So the first time I finished a run, I ended up getting the best ending, and so the treasure that I found was this like legendary flaming sword, and that's apparently the best ending, and you get this awesome sword, and that's kind of the end. Other endings include learning that your treasure room is kind of a trap, and all the bosses from the game show up and they just kill you. And then another ending that you can get is that you discover that you're just an actor on a movie set. So it's like a super weird mix of different endings that you can get. It's a really strange combination. So the bosses are, they include things like gargoyles, like a Medusa that throws little snakes at you, and just all kinds of different sort of Halloween themed creatures. Your regular standard enemies are the undead, tons of skeletons, like mer monsters, flying fish that spit arrows at you, like just all kinds of mystical, magical, Halloween-y sort of stuff. So I mentioned that the gun of choice in the game is a shotgun, but you also, and this is the sort of other unique draw in the game, is that each of the characters in the game, so yourself and your partner, has up to 3 bombs in your inventory. And so at any point you can push the C button and it triggers the bomb, and the bomb essentially wipes out all enemies on screen, all minor enemies on screen. And so you can hold up to 3 bombs, and you can't replenish those, so you kind of have to be very judicious in how you use them. And at the end of each section, your score and accuracy and so on are displayed. And throughout the game, you can also find the occasional treasure chest. And if you shoot it, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be like some sort of a weapon upgrade in there. So you can have like a Gatling gun, or you can have like a flame gun, that kind of stuff. Interestingly, a couple times through my playthroughs, I also, I shot a chest, and instead of a weapon, I got a Konami logo. And if you shoot that, then your hit points, which are set at 3 hearts, immediately go up to 9, and you get 9 bombs as well. So it's almost like it's like a superpower that you can sort of find and pick up. So that was. I
imagine a lot of people nowadays want to shoot the Konami logo.
Yes, for not the same reasons, but exactly.
Yeah.
So everything I've said so far makes the game sound like just a total joy. I mean, it's a light gun game. It's Halloween themed. Lots of different levels to choose from, different paths to take within each level, and that all sounds really amazing. But I have to just be super honest right now. So I have played a ton of Saturn games in my life, and this has got to be one of the worst looking Saturn games out there. The environments that you're sort of moving through on rails are fully 3D, and all of the monsters are sprites. But the sprites are incredibly pixelated, and they just have no frames of animation. And the 3D environments, the textures are absolutely horrendous. If I were to try to paint a visual for you, try to imagine if you spent all day eating, pizza, and then all of a sudden you vomited on your TV or monitor. That's kind of what this game looks like. It's just chunks of color, and yeah, it really is. It's poorly animated pizza vomit is perhaps my forward review of the game. So
pizza vomit the game, sweet.
Yeah,
pixel garbage.
Right, like regurgitated pixel rubbish, so just total garbage.
Do you ever play a Legend of Breath of the Wild? It reminds me of when you make a recipe, your combination is like really bad. It's like all pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
The cooking, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, except the whole game is like that. The frame rate is okay. However, the draw distance is really, really bad. And compared to the arcade and PlayStation versions, at least those 2 versions, although they themselves look really bad, at least the draw distance is better. And yes, even the arcade version of this game, just the textures are horrendous. And with the Saturn version, it's almost as if Konami worked extra hard to make it look crappy on the Saturn. So it really is terrible. So I mean, overall, the game is good. Like, if it had just been polished on a technical level, it might actually be quite a lot of fun. But the way it looks really detracts from the game experience in a tremendous way, much more so than usual. I mean, if you're used to playing modern day games and you have to switch to a Saturn game initially, especially a 3D game, initially you have to sort of adjust to those low poly visuals, but this game it really takes the cake. I mean, it's bad. The official Sega Saturn magazine, the British magazine, rated it at 47, which is about right. It still holds today. And out of all the light gun games that magazine reviewed, this one was by far the lowest. So, that kicks off our coverage of horrible Halloween games for 2020. So, it's a fun game in concept, but in execution, you're going to want to take your light gun and, hit yourself in the head with it a few times. And, maybe that'll make the visuals look better. I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, Peter, speaking of killers and really bad light gun games, why don't we get into another light gun game called Crypt Killer, Graveyard Edition, of course, which I actually thought that Crypt Killer was like a sequel or a prequel to Crypt Killer. I'm wondering now if maybe they worded it that way to associate with it, but I don't know why they would associate with such a awful game of this caliber. And the worst part is, I don't think this even counts as a light gun game. Am I right?
Yeah, so, I know, I'll mention really briefly. So this game, done by Digital Pictures, is a full motion video game. It appeared on a lot of platforms. Every single version of this game on every platform supports the light gun except for one. And can you just guess which one that would be?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Originally it was released on the Sega CD in 94. And it got a Saturn release on November 10th, 95. And it also got a release on PS4 and Steam on July 30th, 2019. I believe they remastered all the cutscenes and stuff, so it probably looks a lot better. If it plays better, I highly doubt that. But the story is you are the lieutenant, a Marine airdropped on an island to stop Dr. Hellman. Yeah, that's the name, Dr. Hellman. Hellman, get it? Haha. Hell on Earth. Anyways, who is creating an army of zombies to take over the world. And I think there's a lot of really popular actors in here too, or a lot of famous people. Like I think a lot of them are even in like newer shows as well. You go side by side with this woman reporter and this very bombastic Rastafarian driver that takes you around the island and tries to give you potions from the Zombie King, which I don't know what the hell that means and what that entails. But all I know is I probably won't drink it if he actually offered me in real life. There's a lot of benefits, though, over the Sega CD version, which is full-screen FMV, full-motion videos, improved quality. I guess it's improved because you get it. An actual difficulty selection, so it's not on destroy your body difficulty at all times. In-your-face zombies, which is zombies that, pop up on the screen like in Area 51 that, stab you out of nowhere. And the only way to kill those guys are with armor-piercing rounds or Datra rounds that I guess could be gotten by quest or those power-up drops. And of course, the best feature of all, the fake Rastafarian driver and a lot more bullets. In terms of issues, though, there's actually quite a lot. There's input lag on the controller itself, so I don't know if you guys played it, but it feels like even with a wired controller, it feels like it lags when you're trying to move it around. I don't know if it's supposed to represent a sentry or something, but it's just mega laggy, and it's really hard to control with the controller. And with no other options to control it, it makes it a hell of a game to play with a controller. Like we were telling before, no light gun support, so if you wanted to actually play this game and enjoy it, that's not happening on the Saturn. Even on the lower difficulties, the zombies are really strong. Like you can aim at. I think with the just the aiming of it is just so hard to target them that you just get hit so much. Like I swear, the first couple screens, I'm down to 12 HP already. It's very difficult. And of course, the stock sound effects that are super generic from every movie and TV show you can think of. So all the monkey effects, the zombie effects, they're all the dying effects, they're all stock. So whatever you see on like TV shows, it actually is the same stock effects of dying as in Command and Conquer, weirdly enough, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, drains health easily, and yeah, just the FMVs look awful. So I actually kind of like, compared to Crypt Killer, I don't know which one I like more. I think I like the gameplay of Crypt Killer better, but I actually like the story of Corpse Killer, weirdly enough. It's just silly and B-movie enough that I actually really enjoy it. And I guess that's what's strange to say.
What's interesting is it doesn't have any light gun support, but I know we don't have a trackball accessory for the Saturn, but wouldn't you think this is a great game that would be able to be played with a trackball?
It would be kind of cool to have something like that for the Saturn. But I mean, I don't know, it just seems like it's almost rushed in a way. It also comes on 2 discs as well.
After I learned that Crypt Killer was mouse compatible, I actually tried Corpse Killer out with a mouse, but no dice. It does not. The mouse is not supported,
Bummer.
so literally the controller is your only option. I would kind of agree with your opinion, although the gameplay in Crypt Killer is more solid. Like it's a more conceptually, it's a better title, but in terms of execution, I think that Corpse Killer, because it's all full motion video, so they actually had actors dressed up as zombies, and you had your stereotypical to the max, Jamaican guy, and the blonde reporter, and the zombie mad scientist.
You're forgetting the best part though, Peter. I don't know if you saw it, but when he put that person in the chair and turned him to a skeleton, that was totally an action figure.
Yes. Absolutely, like it, and it is so cheesy and it is so B-movie. I mean, it's so bad that, in my opinion, it's good. I actually had a fun time with Corpse Killer. I mean, everything you said about why this game is not that great is correct and accurate, but for like a really cheesy, oh my god, I can't believe they made this type of game, that it's great. And on the cover of the US version of Corpse Killer, it actually says in like a big sort of sticker-like graphic, it says, one of the year's 20 best games. Like, it's totally crazy. It's insane. It's that kind of a game. Like, if you thought the voiceovers in the original Resident Evil were complete cheese, then this entire game is complete cheese. And for that reason, I would prefer it. And you said you kind of prefer the story of this one as well, yeah?
The story is, I enjoy the story in the FMVs, but the gameplay is absolute trash. Like, I did not like the gameplay at all, but I did like the gameplay on Crypt Killer, so I guess that's hard.
See, and one thing I noticed when I was playing this game, Pat, is as you're going, so your standard weapon is unlimited, so you can just hold down your fire button and just kind of, move your cursor across the screen, and so you're just kind of blasting zombies away. And I don't know if this is a function of not being accurate or what, but these little skull things, icons, start dropping sort of across the screen, kind of like rainfall, right? And at first I thought, oh, cool, they're pickups. Like, so I got to shoot these and I'll get points or some other bonus or whatever. But the vast majority of them actually harm you. So I think they were added in there so that you don't specifically just sort of move your crosshair across the screen back and forth and just hold down the fire button. So you want to kill the zombies before they hit you, but you got to avoid those dropping skull type icons. Like, it's almost as if they made the game and they realized, oh, we made a crappy game, so let's add something to make it, more challenging. Like, it's just, the whole product is just, it's so bad that it's good,
That was pretty much digital pictures, though, right? That's like what they were known for. Double switch.
Yes.
And did they do the Night Trap digital pictures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they were just known for that
same team
cheese.
I actually prefer Double Switch over Night Trap and Corpse Killer. Double Switch is actually a lot of fun, not gonna lie.
That's the one with Corey Haim.
Did either of you guys try out the revision of the game? It was in Dawn's set of unreleased betas and protos, and I released it, I want to say, like, last year or maybe, like, a little bit earlier, but it was, like, version 1.1, and I was curious if anyone got to try that out versus
I don't think
the
so.
original.
What was better about it?
I've never tried it. I just know that it was like a code revision.
we'll have to try it out. I mean,
need
it's probably
to try
just
this now.
clean up.
I will say the best thing about, well, I don't know if it's the best thing about the game, but my copy has a little coupon on the front, $5 off new games plus 2 free issues of Next Generation magazine. So at least you got something.
Yeah, I wonder if that offer had expired by now. You just go to
Next Generation magazine.
Next Generation magazine did several interviews with Tom Zito, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, who is, he was the head honcho at Digital Pictures. And it's amazing reading those interviews from back in the day. He was absolutely convinced that full motion video was the future. This was to him far better than anything that was currently available or up and coming. Like he swore and he lived by his full motion video games. And so, it's remarkable how obviously, in a few years he was proven completely wrong, and yet his games endure. I mean, Night Trap has such a legacy, and that's one of his as well. So yeah, it's fascinating.
I mean, your game doesn't get put on the PlayStation Store or released on Steam or released by LRG if it's not memorable at least or has some impact.
Mm-hmm.
I did find it funny how it got rated T for teen though when it got re-released.
What's that? Night Trap?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it made it to the Congress, It made it to...
Yeah, it's kind of funny that nowadays there's way worse games than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of funny. It's just a product of its time.
So maybe before we go on, we'll do recommendations. So I did Crypt Killer, and I mean, I would recommend it only if you have a friend over for Halloween and, you've both maybe had a few beverages or found some other way to really just kind of get into the spirit of the holiday, then perhaps you might get some enjoyment out of Crypt Killer. It's a solid enough game if you can look past the vomit. And now I'm curious, Pat, how would you recommend Corpse Killer?
I would recommend that you don't play Corpse Killer, but watch it on YouTube or play the re-release, because I mean the whole reason why I liked it is the crazy story. So because I don't because I can't see anything in that pixelated mess, I would recommend either watching on YouTube or just playing the remaster, Steam and PS4.
Can you make a drinking game out of either of those?
Yes. Every time that creepy skull guy comes on screen in Crypt Killer, take 5 drinks, and then take 5 more, and then another 5. And then every time the fake Rastafarian guy comes on screen and says something, or says bruh, just take a drink.
I'll just mute the game and do the voices.
Or that.
Do like a Mystery Science Theater.
So the evil scientist, Dr. Hellman, is played by Vincent Schiavelli, who, and I could be pronouncing his name wrong, guys, so if I did, forgive me.
That's
but
cool. R.I.P.
He is like he did a lot of sort of side roles in movies or minor roles. I'm positive he was the ghost guy in the subway in that movie with Whoopi Goldberg, and the one where is it just called Ghost or Ghosts?
I think you're thinking of Philadelphia. Yeah, it's Ghost.
As Ghost, yeah.
As Subway Ghost.
Yeah, is he not the Subway Ghost?
He is. I'm looking at his...
So it's him, yeah.
Yeah. He's that. I'm trying to think the most recent one. Oh, he was in Hey Arnold the movie. I guess that's kind of cool.
So yeah, like it's just cool that he's in the game. You're just like, oh hey, I know that guy. He's the and he's the mad scientist that's making potions to create a zombie army. Like it's just it's so bad that it's good. Oh,
he's also in Death of Smoochie. That was actually a really good movie with Robin Williams and Edward Norton. That actually was a really good movie. But anyways, yeah, why don't we move on to Skeleton Warriors, or as people call it, Skeleton Warriors, as the kids' TV show intro.
Right. And this is one that I completely overlooked when I was going through some Saturn games to play. And I don't know why. I just, I guess I just thought it was just going to be something generic. And so And then when I was like, all right, Halloween's coming up, I got to play one of these games. And Skeleton Warriors was on the list. And I was like, oh, God, this one is going to be really bad. Okay, so good surprise was Skeleton Warriors actually isn't that bad. The best parts about it is it's a beautiful looking game. And the soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is just trying to be epic, and it really kind of nails it. The game basically plays your, it's kind of like a beat 'em up, side-scrolling, go left to right, and you just knock out every single skeleton and everything that you come across. Now, what's interesting is when you do kill a skeleton, they drop a jewel. If you don't pick up that jewel in time, the power of the skeleton merges back together and you have to kill it again. So it's really big about knocking them out and picking these jewels up. Now, these jewels also have the ability to create a long-range weapon attack for you. And you can either use one jewel to give you just a basic attack, or you can select between one of two different special attacks using your triggers, and it uses typically 2 jewels to do that special attack. The game is not bad as far as that goes. It's something that you could play with an arcade stick and have a lot of fun with. The downside to the game is by the time I got to stage 3, I was actually kind of bored, and I didn't really make it much beyond that point. Because the problem with the game is you go from the left and you go to the right, and that's about it. There's points in each stage where it's easier to just run and go through and just get to the boss or get to the end. But the stage will stop and force you to fight off a series of skeletons. And the problem is if you get stuck way too far to the right edge of the screen when this happens, you have a bad habit of getting hit by the skeletons that are emerging into that stage area. And so that's a little bit of troublesome there. The bosses were a little tricky because you're just going to get hit. I tried blocking, I tried attacking, ducking, anything like that. And the real strategy there is you just got to attack them and hit them very, very quickly in rapid succession. But like I said, the problem was I just got bored with the game. And even though it looks really pretty, it sounds really nice, it's just highly repetitive and just couldn't make it all the way through it. Is it something I can recommend, though? Yeah, if you get it cheap enough, it's not bad. You won't be disappointed with it. Like I say, try it with an arcade stick. And but if you really want a good example of a good beat 'em up, Guardian Heroes is an excellent example of a good beat 'em up game.
I was just looking through our Shiro website, and exactly 2 years ago, I wrote a review for this game, and everything you said is pretty much what was my take on the game when I played it. It's good. It looks great. It controls well. There's no issues, but it's completely unremarkable. It's boring, really. There's nothing to keep you, going through the game. So I agree 100% with everything you just said.
Okay, now I want to look up this old Shiro article.
Anyone ever see the cartoon for Skeleton Warriors?
Yeah, I actually did see a couple of episodes, but I don't remember much about it. I just remember seeing it, and that was about it.
Yeah.
It was a 13-episode 1994 cartoon series produced in America by Landmark Entertainment. I'm just reading off my review because I ended up doing a bit of research for it to see how close the game was to the cartoon. And story-wise, it's fairly faithful to the original cartoon. I mean, you're Prince Justin. You have one half crystal, and you have to defeat the evil Baron Dark for the other half of the Light Star crystal. And it's I don't know. There's not much to it really. It's fairly generic.
I just remember back in the day, this game was heavily promoted in magazines. It was in Next Generation. It was in the Saturn magazine. It was. I remember seeing it though. I remember it being very high profile as far as them trying to push it. And then when you end up playing it, there's a good first impression, but it's kind of downhill from there.
That's pretty accurate. Good first impression, then just kind of downhill.
All right, Kay, did you want to talk about probably the best depiction of the Crow character that has ever been produced in any form of media, which is, of course, in The Crow City of Angels?
This will be short and sweet. Or not sweet. This game is god awful. It's the Crow City of Angels. I actually am of the opinion that the movie that it's based on, loosely based on, wasn't as bad as a lot of people claim it to be. I mean, being a huge Crow fan, I can admit that the first movie has some very, very cringeworthy dialogue. And I love the movie, and I love the mythos. That's partly where my name, my online handle has come from the last 20-something years. This game is the worst. And I'm not even talking like in the sense of it being like a Crow property. The controls are awful. It looks ridiculous. It's a pixelated mess. I have not played Crypt Killer, so I can't tell if it is along the lines of pizza vomit, but it obviously can't be. If a mime maybe, threw up somewhere and it was all in black and white, then this probably would kind of come close. Tank controls, similar to like Resident Evil 1, but Resident Evil 1 was actually a good game. This is not. The hit detection is awful. The music is droning and boring. The only thing that you really do is throw out punches and kicks, and you're going to hear, "Hey, clown face!" like, till you want to beat yourself in the head. Avoid the game. I don't care if you're a Crow fan or not. Avoid it. It's not worth picking up. It's not worth trying to burn. Save your laser. Stay away from this game, and you'll be much happier.
Don't waste your TerraOnions on it.
I never knew this. I had to use an action replay to get like a frozen RAM to keep my health to play through more than like the first 2 levels. There's actually a cheat code that you can use on the PlayStation version and on the PC, and it's not on the Saturn.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it was when the AVGN reviewed it, and I was like, "Dang, this game looks like hot garbage."
Oh yeah, that's actually a really funny review. If you can handle his obscenities, that particularly vile sense of humor that he has, it's a pretty on par assessment of how bad this game really is.
So, fun fact, I actually own 2 legitimate original copies of The Crow. I'm not sure how that happened. I know, it's like double trouble, really. And I agree 100% with Kay. It really kind of is. It's like 2.5 copies too many. The one thing that sort of I noticed that the game uses a lot of so it's pre-rendered scenes, and then sort of like in Resident Evil, but the resolution on them, either the resolution sucks or the detail in the original photos is just terrible. And there's a lot of sort of faked light sourcing. So, you got like a street lamp that, for example, will shine a light onto the street and whatever. But as your character moves through it, there is no real lighting effects of any kind. And so it just looks bad. It looks bad because your character will come across as looking like they're just slapped on and superimposed, and it just ruins the picture. The character moves slowly, and when they turn around and try to twist around, it's slow and painful, and it needs to die. It really just needs to die.
It's hammer worthy.
Yeah, it really is.
Another thing that is worth sort of mentioning, this happens a lot again in the AVGN reviews of past games, but it's kind of well known that LJN is a company just known for bad games in general, but particularly bad licenses. And this game was made by Acclaim, which absorbed LJN during this time in the 90s. So take that with how you will.
The spirit lives on. Alrighty. Anyone else want to talk about the Crow before we move on? Or did we pretty much put the Crow to rest?
I'd say it's probably the scariest game in this cast.
Fair.
Yeah.
I'll give a little anecdote real quick. One of my favorite memories was when we messed with Sam and were voting on one of his live streams. And I repeatedly voted the Crow.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I voted it too.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up doing it. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
It took a couple of tries, but I kept like pushing it on him. When other much better games would go on, and I don't feel bad because it was hilarious, but I feel bad, and I should feel bad.
Nah, he probably it was funny. It was worth it. But yeah. Do you want to move on to Nick's pick, which is a Alone in the Dark 2, One-Eyed Jack's Revenge, and that totally sounds like a Goonies name, by the way.
It kind of does, yeah. Just a long story short, this is like playing a Pilot Red Sun video. If you go on YouTube and look up Pilot Red Sun and watch like 2 or 3 of whatever his most latest videos were, you've pretty much experienced the Saturn version of Alone in the Dark 2. It's not good. So the first Alone in the Dark for PC, it's, widely renowned as a Penguin classic. I haven't really played it myself. And the sequel, which is, this one, obviously, it's kind of okay, I guess, for PC. But the Saturn port it's just awful. So what's a real shame is they tried to make it an enhanced port. So they gave a lot of the characters and stuff textures and whatnot. But the frame rate, is really what kills it. You can tell when an enemy is on screen because the frame rate immediately just tanks to below virtual hideline standards. It's the worst. And the controls are really hard to figure out too. It's tank controls, sort of like Resident Evil, but more complicated. I spent the first 20 minutes trying to figure out how to shoot. You have to open up one of the 2 pause menus, go to your gun, pick it, and then pick that you're using the gun, not reloading it. And then you have to hold A and then hold up while holding A to shoot it. And then while holding A, you use left and right to aim. And half the time you can't even...
awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. And half the time you can't even fire your gun because the frame rate is tanked so much while the enemy's shooting at you that you don't have enough time to press up while the game will let you press up before getting shot by the bad guy. I did die a couple of times to that. And the game itself, it's got kind of a fun premise. You're like a guy going into a haunted house in a place that the game calls Hell's Kitchen. It's just so slow that your disc is going to rot before you have any chance to beat it.
So is it Hell's Kitchen as in New York Hell's Kitchen, or are we talking about Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, or even worse than those 2 combined?
Probably worse, honestly. Yeah, it's just not a good
It's a place
port.
where everything's raw.
I'm sure the original's fine, but this is just an awful port. The 3DO version seems to have a much better frame rate and stays steady throughout, and the load times don't seem to be as bad. That's the other thing, too. Whenever you go from scene to scene on the Saturn version, it takes, like the screen will freeze, and it'll take 10 or 15 seconds for it to load into the next scene. Doesn't matter if you're getting shot at by an off-screen enemy. It's terrible. So... fun fact, they almost made a Sega 32 export of this game, and then they didn't.
Imagine how bad that would have ran.
Yeah, not great. It was kind of strange that they wanted to port this to console, because by the time the Saturn version was done and they released it, Resident Evil had already been out, which is by far a much better survival horror game, and was probably took some inspiration from Alone in the Dark when they originally made it, because they have very similar controls.
Because Alone in the Dark kind of really died alone in the dark.
It kind of did. It kind of did. So I don't know if they canned the 32 export because of just how bad their other porting efforts were with this or what, or with the fact that Resident Evil just kind of took over by that point. So definitely not a good time to be a survival horror fan if you only had a Saturn at the time, because the Resident Evil port for Saturn didn't come out until like a year after Alone in the Dark 2. So anyway, yeah, don't play it.
Fair enough. I have not played it, but I think I will not.
If you want to fire up the DOS box and play the PC port, go for it. But if you want to play the Saturn version, don't. It is bad. It is probably the worst game I've played on the console.
I love hearing when somebody likes to argue what is the worst game on the console, because that brings up some really interesting criteria.
It does.
So a few months ago, I was testing every single North American game for compatibility with the floppy disk drive. And so, of course, I tried out Alone in the Dark. And initially, I was very put off because it has a ridiculously high memory requirement. Like, you need to have virtually the entire internal memory free to be able to save a game. But the game itself, like, the interface was clunky, the graphics looked like just really bad, and moving your character was so everything Nick was saying I would agree with and support, and this is yet another game that sort of belongs in the infernal flames of hell, because it's not fun. It's not good at all. But I will mention for collectors out there that the game, it does come with like a phone card type insert, and there's something else that I think you've got, Dave, in the case too, right? Like it's not just
a bookmark,
case manual and a bookmark. Okay,
yeah, the Coco, because it was a Coco Pelli game,
right? Yeah. And I've got the phone card, but I don't have the bookmark. So I guess a complete copy is not just the case, the manual, and the disc. It also includes the bookmark and the phone card. So the packaging is very attractive, though. I mean, the cover art looks great.
Yeah, the only thing though is that if you want a complete collection for it, or if you want a complete copy, you have to actually own the game. Only downside.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah.
Like Nick was saying, though, like Resident Evil pretty much changed the survival horror genre. And so I noticed that when they brought the Alone in the Dark series back on the Dreamcast, it was very much trying to be like a Resident Evil clone more than it really was, itself. Like more than it was an Alone in the Dark game. It felt more like it was trying then to be a Resident Evil game.
It's kind of funny because I think D2 also was trying to be another Resident Evil game as well, right?
It's fair to make, a connection there for sure. They were definitely inspired.
Yeah, I think D2 was better executed though, in my opinion.
D2 is an amazing game, really.
I gotcha. All right. Dave, did you want to move on with Lunacy?
Sure. Starting with Mansion of the Hidden Souls, or The Mansion of Hidden Souls. Because it's the Saturn version, I guess they changed the name by adding the word "the" to differentiate it from the Sega CD version. Some people might consider this like a walking simulator, I guess, but I mean it's essentially an adventure FMV game. So even though I personally feel like these are fairly decent games, back in the day, they didn't review very well because by the time they came out, the industry was pretty much done with the whole FMV thing and they were moving on. So they didn't review particularly well as a result. But the Mansion of the Hidden Souls, it's called Shinsetsu Yumemi Yakata Tobira no Oku ni Dareka ga, which is roughly translated to Gently Dreaming Mansion, Someone Behind the Door. And it came out in winter of 94 in Japan, summer 95 in the US, and it was developed by System Seicom, published by Sega. And it's actually the sequel to the original Mansion of Hidden Souls on the Mega CD, where I guess in the Mega CD game, this brother and sister, they happen upon a strange butterfly, and they have heard people say don't go to this mansion, but they go to the mansion anyway. And, suffice it to say, I guess his sister gets transformed into a butterfly or something like that, and he has to rescue her. And I don't want to spoil that game for anybody who's interested in, playing the game. But in this game, basically, it's the brother, like, again, as an elder of this mansion. Like, I guess he comes back to the mansion, and he has taken a role there as a spirit resident at the mansion. And apparently, there are several souls who have abandoned humanity to occupy this mansion in the form of butterflies, because that makes sense. And then there's like a red moon that appears, and it's draining the mansion's power or something like that. So you are this character. You're one of the souls in the mansion. Your name is Jun, and you're called upon to basically discover the mystery of why the moon is stealing the mansion's power, and there's this unknown individual who's like going around trashing all the rooms and looking for some kind of important item or something like that. So you have to kind of figure this out. So there's not a whole lot you can do in this game other than walk around and talk to floating heads, and then there's like 4 items in the game that you can actually interact with, or that you can like put in your inventory. So, it's fairly basic. And I would say that this is kind of almost like a test bed for what they wanted to do and what they would later go on to do with Lunacy. I would say that despite its appearance, which is pretty dated, it's actually a huge visual upgrade from the Mega CD game, which runs at about like 4 frames per second or something like that. And you can actually compare them because they both use a lot of the same scenes and environments. But I would say that it looks best on a CRT monitor or with like a scanline filter to help hide the video compression artifacts, because there are quite a bit of those. And then I guess a good thing to say about the first game is that it simulates the passage of time as characters move about the mansion in correspondence to your actions. And unlike Lunacy, the characters, they don't hint very much at what you should do or where you should go. So you're mostly on your own to figure those kind of things out. But you can unlock each character's backstory by choosing correct dialogue options to kind of earn their trust. And it is possible to miss out on certain dialogues based on certain choices you make. So if you enjoy the game at all, you might consider a replay just to experience the different dialogue scenarios. And there is a mechanic in the Mansion of Hidden Souls. There's a fortune teller who provides you with tarot cards that basically give you hints about each character and the rooms in the mansion, but you actually have to like look in the manual that comes with the game to get a listing of like what each tarot card symbolizes, so you can kind of refer to that and draw conclusions, I guess you could say, or kind of figure out using the tarot cards, I guess, is almost like a hint system, I guess, But then System Saycom developed a follow-up game, which is very much a spiritual sequel called Lunacy. Well, it was called Gekka Mugentan Toriko in Japan, which roughly translates to Moonflower Mist Prisoner Fantasy. Okay? And then when they localized it for the US, they called it Lunacy because I guess lunacy suggests, losing someone's mind. And then it also kind of speaks to like the power of the moon. So again, developed by System Saycom, translated and localized by SEGA, but published by Atlas because at this time SEGA they wanted to distance themselves from like lesser titles, I guess, at least SOA. And this was spring 97. So I guess that would have been Stoller. So anyway, they gave it to Atlas. Atlas published it in the US. It's one of the reasons I originally picked up Lunacy, because I just wanted like all the Atlas published games, but it actually turned out to be like one of my favorite games on the console. As I said, it's a spiritual successor, so it's not like, it's hard to argue that it's an actual sequel, but it's directed by Hiroyuki Naruhama, who would actually go on to make Deep Fear, so yet another Halloween horror kind of tie-in kind of thing. Basically, it's an adventure FMV with character dialogue and some complex puzzles. That's kind of what it boils down to. Again, at the time that it came out, some people lauded it as like a really good game, and then some people just dismissed it as it's an FMV. It's not worth your time because we've moved on from FMV. But I would say that aside from D and Enemy Zero, Lunacy actually stands as one of the exemplary games from this genre, which is basically a dead genre, And the Saturn, funnily enough, the Saturn has like 3 of these games. It just does it really well, So you're Fred, the traveler. You wake with amnesia, with a strange forehead tattoo in a jail cell occupied by another inmate named Anthony. He's this creepy guy, and he gives you insight into the town and aids your escape. I guess he has the key, the whole time, and he gives you the key to get out. And then this Lord Gordon guy, who's I guess the ruler of the town or something like that, he and his goons, beat the crap out of you, and they're the ones that locked you in jail in the first place. But they tell you that your tattoo means that you've been to this city of the moons where it's a place that grants visitors eternal life or something like that. So you don't care about any of this stuff. You're just trying to figure out who the hell you are and why you're here and how you can escape, basically. So the mood of this game is very atmospheric. It's very surreal, bizarre, unsettling, intriguing. I would say it's like Twin Peaks, basically. And if this is Twin Peaks, then Mansion of the Hidden Souls would be more like Northern Exposure or something, because it's, very much less so. This game is kind of a bit more creepy than Mansion of the Hidden Souls, but basically the voice acting is really good, I would say. It does a great job of giving you that feeling of isolation. The lip syncing is pretty poor, but I mean, it has that same thing going on with like Shenmue, you know, where the voice acting is pretty good, but it looks really weird with the animation. Fred is a fairly void of character, similar to Ryo in Shenmue. So that's fitting, I guess, because he has amnesia.
Yeah, it's really interesting though. I'm actually really interested in trying this out. I know I liked D quite a bit, so maybe this might be up my alley then.
I think you would like it. I mean, I think if you have the patience for it and you can set aside a couple hours, because this game, you can get through the first disc in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then the second disc I think is probably like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So it's not a long game, but you know, there's just so much going for it. Honestly, I think, like I said, the industry was disillusioned about FMV games, so that factored in heavily to the negative reviews. But the music is amazing. Hideo Suzuki and Naoki Jimbo did the music. I did a music cast a while back talking about the music, and I think it's absolutely excellent. Like, every track in this game are great. You know, the town characters give hints and clues what to do. There's like a memory select system that allows you to go back and review conversations you've had. So even if you sit down and you play the game a little bit and then you save and then you don't come back to it for like a week or something, some of those games that you play, you forget what was happening. But with this, you can actually go back and review the conversations you've had so you can get yourself right back to track, you know, with what you need to do. I'd say that the town can be difficult to navigate at first, but it did come with a physical map. So just like the first game relied on the manual to give you the tarot card definitions, this game, I would say, is best played with the map so that you can just, you know, not waste so much time trying to figure out where things are in the town. So you can download that on GameFAQs or something like that. And then there's 2 discs. So, you know, once you get through the first disc, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it really becomes Halloween-y towards the towards the second disc, where everything gets turned upside down and there's like man-eating carpets and I don't know, there's like crazy puzzles and rooms that kill people. So yeah,
well, you definitely got me intrigued.
Yeah, I think that you know, it's one of those things where I often feel like I have to defend this game because it's an acquired taste, and some people are just not interested. Some people, it's just not their cup of tea. They want, you know, shmups, or they want like Twitch gameplay. But if you like film, if you like, you know, David Lynch, if you like creepy, weird stuff with strange vibes, this game is great. It actually does have a story to it. By playing these 2 games again, I really found that there's a lot that ties the 2 games together. There's like, they both have this urgent theme of escape. They both deal with like the theme of like resistance and then also acceptance, kind of like giving in and just kind of going with the flow, I guess, or just accepting fate. They both have large mansions. They both deal with souls incarnated as butterflies. They both have a huge importance on the number 4, and it comes up over and over and over again.
The famous Japanese number shi for death.
Yes, yeah. And then I mean, it plays throughout this both games like so heavily. There's so many things that are in the number 4, and I actually started noticing it more on my second playthrough. So thanks, Pat, for mentioning that. Yeah, because I hadn't even thought about that, but.
Yeah, that's an unlucky number in Japan. They actually don't have 4th floors in Japan for that same reason.
Right.
But we also don't have 13th floors, so imagine if a building in America exists where there's no 4th and 13th floor. That'd be kind of funny.
It would be confusing. And
it would.
Okay, so a few more things. The souls incarnated as butterflies, it's a big deal because it was in the Sega CD game, then it was in Mansion, and then it was in Lunacy. And it's kind of this thing that ties them all together. I guess System Seicom had a thing for butterflies or something. But they also deal with like the power of the moon, and with the full moon coming at like the fourth month or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, transportation through paintings and mirrors. There's a collector in both games. There's a character called the Collector, and he has an entire room filled with deceased butterflies. So if the souls are incarnated as butterflies, but this guy's got like a room filled with deceased butterflies, I don't really know what that says, but it's kind of creepy. And then the quest for eternal life both deal with that in some way or another. And that Collector is, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody and say who it is, but the Collector in Lunacy, he is the only one, he's the only character in the game who does not have the forehead tattoo. Like at the end of the game, when Fred finally figures out how to flood Misty Town with mist, and the town gets flooded with this red mist, everyone gets sent to the City of Moons, which is the second disc. And when that happens, everyone has the forehead tattoo, which is, I guess, proof that you've been to the City of Moons. You get this mark on your forehead. But the Collector is the only one who doesn't have that mark.
You know, it's kind of weird. Out of context, that sounds extremely crazy and like a fever dream.
Definitely. The ending of Mansion of Hidden Souls is very much a fever dream in and of itself. But then Lunacy, the entire game, is kind of a fever dream. And I would definitely say that's an apt way to describe it. But yeah, so I would probably have to play the game a couple more times to try to like figure out what exactly is going on, because there's so much suggested. And again, it could just be like crazy Japanese guys trying to make an off-the-wall story or whatever. But I just feel like there's so many different layers of Inception, so to speak, with these games, that taking it face value, they seem very like plain. And that's the thing, is I think most people take these games at face value. They're just like, oh, okay, that's a walking simulator, or okay, it's a adventure FMV game, you know, next. But there's a lot going on with these games for sure. So I don't know if I would say that it's good or bad. It really kind of depends on who's playing it, you know, whether you like this kind of thing or not. But I definitely think that it's worth a playthrough for sure.
The soundtrack to Lunacy is phenomenal.
It really is. And, you know, the cool thing is that the two guys that worked on this soundtrack, they didn't have any other soundtrack credits to their name. They had done coding, like programming for games. They had done Foley effects and like sound effects, but neither of them had ever done any kind of game composition, at least according to like their Moby credits. So this is like the only thing. One of them, Jinbo, I think, has a 2017 game composer, you know, on his credits. So finally he ended up doing like another game way down the road. But like at the time they didn't have anything. So, and to do such an amazing soundtrack, you know, to me, I think that's amazing.
Would you prefer Mansion of the Hidden Souls on Sega CD or Saturn?
Okay, so
that's the one people should check out.
Okay, I have not played Mansion of the Hidden Souls on Sega CD, but who was it? Let's see. I think our friend Genovi did an amazing video on it, okay? So check out Genovi's video. I'll be honest with you, just watching videos on YouTube of this game make me nauseated because it runs at like 4 frames a second. So it is terrible. Like it runs at such a slow frame rate that I just don't know if I could get past that. But the truth is, they're two different games. They really are two different games. And I very much stand behind saying that I think the Mansion of Hidden Souls on Saturn is really a sequel to Mansion of Hidden Souls on the Sega CD. So if you like the games and you want to know the full story, I would say go ahead and play the Sega CD game first. But it's hard to say. So they both take place in the same mansion, right? So when people see screenshots of the games, they just think that the Saturn game is a remake, when really the Saturn game is Jonathan having gone back to the mansion as an old man, and he has taken on the spirit of a butterfly. And he's the guy that you talk to at the beginning. He's like the floating head that tells you like everything's wrong with the mansion and you need to go figure it out with Mike. So
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely a second game.
I'm interested in playing these now. This sounds super interesting.
Just, I would say for you, Pat, probably just do Lunacy, honestly, because then you'll have a really good first impression. I would say that it's one of those things where if you like Lunacy, you might persevere with Mansion, but probably not the other way around, because the Mansion of Hidden Souls on Saturn is a much simpler game. There's not as much to it. And that's why I said it was kind of a test bed for these guys, because I think that they did the best they could on the Sega CD, and then the hardware changed, right? So they had to like come to grips with the Saturn hardware and developing on that hardware. And I think that there were a lot of things that they improved. So they were like, oh yeah, we can do graphics better. We can do, FMV better, but like they still hadn't really gotten their chops down as far as a game developer on the Saturn. And then when Lunacy came, that was really it for them, realizing their vision and the engine and everything for how it works. Lunacy is a just much more polished game, and it's a much more like fleshed out, complete game.
Yeah,
That's my recommendation.
for sure. Though I think looks kind of interesting in it, and I'm actually shocked that all of those versions came out in the U.S. on Saturn and the Sega CD.
Yeah,
Such a weird game.
it really is, and I don't know. I like seriously. There are so many great games that didn't come out in the U.S. and then this comes out. I really couldn't tell you why they decided to greenlight this, but I'm glad they did. Unfortunately, the U.S. version is very expensive. It seems to me, having gone on eBay recently, it's like trying to get a complete copy is it's pretty up there. But I definitely recommend folks just burn it and enjoy it.
Are you know about Lunacy or Mansion of Hidden Souls? Oh, Lunacy. Yeah, it's expensive.
Mansion of Hidden Souls is pretty cheap, but Lunacy is it's lunacy to buy a copy. Let's just say that.
Do you think it's worth the price tag?
It was worth it to me, but I got it a lot cheap. I got it years ago for a lot cheaper. Now I don't even know how much it goes for. I know it's over $100. And
It's like 308.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. I was thinking it was like $250. No, if it's over $3. So I mean, it's 2 discs, a map, a manual, and then you get like it's got the old style plastic insert that you put the second disc on. I think it's a worthwhile experience, and I think most folks will just do well enough to burn a copy and play the game so that they can say they played it. It's one of those games where you sit down and it definitely grips you all the way through to the end. And because it's like a 4-hour sitting, anybody can do it if they're interested. And it's weird enough and creepy enough that I think that it keeps you going until the end. The City of Moons, though, it can be kind of confusing. There's like 2 towers, and then there's a central hub that kind of connects the towers. And so if you can download a copy of the map, I highly recommend it because it's so easy to get lost. But once you get over the whole navigation thing, then it's kind of a piece of cake. I was curious to know if Peter had played it.
I have given it a try, and I think it is sort of the state-of-the-art of full motion video on the Saturn. You know what I mean? Like, that's as good as it got.
Think it's better than D?
I think mechanically it's better than D, and what I mean by mechanically is like they got a better flow. There's, the inventory screens are nicer. Like the video is clean. It mechanically, I think it's the best full motion video game you can get. But to your point, Dave, I think it's very artistic, and you have to really be into this type of game to enjoy it. And I liked it. I really enjoyed it. But I also know not everybody will.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't have any load times, though. I will say that. It's like they figured out how to kind of mask the load times into the movement. Like as you're moving to the next scene fluidly, it's loading the following options of where you could go. So it I would say it has virtually or seemingly no load time. So that's cool.
I wanted to say that you made it sound incredibly interesting. Was it at all mentioned that the European name of it is Toriko?
No, I didn't mention that, but I should. So yeah, the original title was the Geka Mugentan Toriko. And Toriko just means prisoner or captive. And so the European version, the title is basically just prisoner, which I think is kind of generic. But yeah, so they just went with Toriko because maybe they thought that was a cool sounding word. But taken by itself, it just means prisoner. So it doesn't suggest as much as like lunacy. Lunacy is actually a really good localization of a title because it has a double entendre, with the moon and then like going insane, or he starts out the game by saying, "Where is my mind?"
It makes you wonder, do you think they'd ever release a subbed version? That'd be kind of a cool fan project to do.
Of what? What do you mean?
Of Lunacy? Is it English dubbed or is it actually in Japanese?
Yeah, it's English. It's kind of like Shenmue, like they got English voice actors. And actually the voice actors are really good. I have to give them a lot of credit. Like they deliver their lines believably. And if you're closing your eyes, I could totally buy it. It's just that the animations, the stiff animations kind of make it a little bit, it's kind of like Shenmue. What can I say? Where you're talking and the little old ladies, their lips are moving, but it seems like they're saying other stuff, so it's just a little dated in that means, but at least the voice acting is good. It's not like Resident Evil, where the voice acting is really bad.
I beg to differ. The voice acting in Resident Evil is great.
Well, it's so bad that it's really good.
Yeah. All right, so we reached the end of our cast. Did we have any plugs or anything we wanted to talk about before we headed out, guys?
I just want to wish everybody a really happy Halloween. It's the third Halloween cast that we've done. The first two we've done games that, you are very worthy of Halloween. They're the best games, and so it's kind of neat to do a cast where, for 2020, this year of years, that we covered some pretty dodgy games, and I think that was super cool. So happy Halloween, everybody.
Yes, happy Halloween indeed, guys. All right, so if that's it, we're going to play some Swagman for you heading out. And from all of us at SEGA Saturn Shiro, thanks for listening, and remember, you must play SEGA Saturn. Welcome to SEGA Saturn Shiro, the only podcast that will leave you with a horrible Halloween. Also, I forgot to turn off my fan. God damn it.
I can't hear it.
Best intro ever. So I gave this game a very quick try, and am I on? Like, is my audio on, or am I?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're on. You're on. We're just being rude.
Oh, okay.
At least I am. Sorry.
So I gave.
And then he dropped.
And he's just gone.
Peter just got. Oh my gosh, Peter! The timing on that was amazing.
Oh, that
did
was
you do
great.
that on purpose,
Okay.
or did you actually drop? Take that as a dropped.
Yeah.
Oh,
Seems
he's
like
coming.
Poor Peter. He gets interrupted by us and Discord. Technology just does not like Peter tonight. Peter tonight. Peter tonight. Peter tonight. Peter tonight. Peter tonight. Peter tonight.